welcome to week 12 of the NFL season, That Fantasy Show. I am your host, your friendly local neighborhood YouTuber, Michael Amend, joined by
Brian Wilczek.
And who else?
Miss Ella.
Thank you for tuning in this week. We also have who else with us?
Very special guest. It's Archer, and today is his 3rd birthday.
Archer, happy birthday, buddy. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
What do you say we lead it off with a birthday song?
Okay, we can start a little different this week, and we will just do happy birthday. You ready? Oh, I don't know, buddy, but we about to sing you happy birthday. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Archer. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. Happy birthday, young man. Thank you.
All right.
What do you say we move along? We'll just hit the Pledge of Allegiance real quick and we'll kick this show off.
Scheduled programming.
Here we go. Miss Ella, you ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
All right. Thank you, Miss Ella. We will see you in a few minutes for Ella's Pick 6. You as well, Mr. Archer. You're going to want to see how Ella's doing. Kid's doing pretty well on the season. I think she's starting to like this. And I think she's starting to recognize the logos, too.
Yeah.
Without much. So this week, maybe when we do that segment, we will just see what Ella's got for us.
We got Arch off screen. He's like, what are you guys doing?
Let's go, bro. He's happy.
We're out here having fun. Speaking of fun, let's crack one open. Sunday morning. There's no rules on this show.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers to the show.
Cheers.
To networking. Working.
Yeah, we had a couple issues last week. I feel like we're locked and loaded. Good to go this week.
We got a different format. We got some nice little frames going on. Little razzle dazzle.
And if you haven't noticed our jersey selections today, it is a huge week in this part of the country. It's pretty tense, so we're actually not going to say much about it. That's how tense it is, especially with the family aspect involved here.
Yeah, if you don't know much about it, you must be living under a rock.
Yes, but as simply put as it can be, I am a full-blooded Ohio State Buckeye, and Brian...
Michigan Wolverine over here.
All blue. Wolverine.
Yeah.
We don't have much to say about it, except we are passionate about our fan bases, and we're not going to rile each other up, and we're not trying to rile up any fans of the show, because it's obviously probably more heavy blue fans than it is red, but...
I don't know. We might get a good basis
I got some fans from local back home, but like I said, this can get intense. We're not trying to start up a debate show or spark a rivalry between us. We got a good thing going on. Let's not mess that up. Because I'm sure we both feel exactly how both fan bases feel, which is strong, and we're just going to not even go there. But to fans of both teams, I hope you enjoy this week's game, because people that try to play off that rivalry like it's not the biggest rivalry in sports, they're wrong.
Yeah, they're fools.
I've lost a friend over this. I've hugged his parents, he's hugged my parents, and we're no longer cool, and the basis of it started with this Ohio State-Michigan beef, so we're going to leave that alone.
Yeah, it runs deep. The implications are high, and, you can never discount the game. It doesn't matter. One team's bad, one team's good. If they're both good, it just adds to the national spectacle. But
I don't care if we go 1-12, if the one was against blue, and I'm sure you guys would feel the same way.
Yeah.
So
I think that's on the list of bonuses for sure, and the entire team,
absolutely.
Coaching staff.
And, there's other sports rivalries that, I'm sure there's some intensity and it's comparable, but it's not the same. And having lived personally in both states and seeing how both sides of the fan bases can be, they're both a little extreme. I feel like I'm a little more mellowed to it all, but also
I think the relationship being what it is, it kind of brings a different light to things. And
Right.
You can kind of you can relate more to somebody.
Yeah,
even
you
though
need
it's a
to
little
have the
intense.
opposite perspective sometimes.
Yeah.
Just for some flow, but
But no,
I've been safe out here for the most part. I've lived here in Michigan about 12, 13 years. I've only felt scared for my safety actually one time, but I've personally seen a few Michigan fans not be safe when I lived in Ohio, and yeah, so it's a little more intense on that side.
need
But
some security down there.
we can move along from that subject. How about last week in the NFL, Brian? It was a pretty huge week. There was some moving and shaking in the standings. Some typical fantasy guys. They did
Yeah.
their job. And
Yeah, and speaking of NFL, dropped off the undefeated team. I can get a round of applause for that one. Buffalo.
sorry, I'm a little slow on that one.
That's all right.
Nobody's undefeated now. Kansas City. They were going to take a loss.
Oh yeah, it was coming one way or another.
Every year, I don't expect anybody to lose 0 games, and I don't expect anybody to lose 1 game. I expect every team, even the best teams, you're going to have at least 2 losses on the year. Just statistically speaking, it doesn't matter. You could be looking like the 86 Bears or whoever you want to look like. I just expect losses on your schedule. It's just the way this shakes out.
What year was that Patriots team that took it undefeated to the Super Bowl? Just
Man,
for
I want to
some-
say that's 07 if I'm
Mhm.
guessing,
Something,
something like
yeah.
that.
If anyone would have happened, I think that one should have.
Yeah.
Especially with the way the game ended.
Yeah, they had they had probably the best quarterback ever and the best receiver ever on the same team with the best coach, and
Yeah, it was completely stacked.
even them, they couldn't get it done. And it's just statistics. Like I said, you play 18 games, like you're not going to win all of them. If you play 12, maybe you'll win all 12. But
Is that a betting line? Can you bet on a team to go undefeated preseason?
they offer it at certain points, but the odds get kind of ridiculous. Obviously in the beginning of the season it's not bad, but once the Chiefs started going along here, you could bet when they were going to get their first loss. Hey, there's my buddy
We got another guest on the show,
Loomis. I like that little guy. But yeah, and then if we move along to the Thursday night game that just happened this past week, speaking of Ohio, my
Ooh.
hometown of Cleveland,
Who doesn't love a snow game?
a snow game. That was beautiful. And I've actually been to a snow game or two at that stadium, and it's an experience. And if it looked fun on TV, it usually is fun, unless it's like high winds kicking. So I have been to one where the winds were kicking and it was crazy. But
My
no.
game was a snoozer for my fantasy team, though. Let me tell you. Ooh, I had Njoku going in one league, Tillman on another. I was going against Moore. So, I kind of washed out a little bit there.
yeah.
Man, I don't know.
And I started Pittsburgh defense, I believe, in both of my leagues, and I expected a little more out of them. But, the Browns, they win random games. Like I said, if you caught the show out a couple weeks ago, I called them beating Baltimore when they were at plus 325 odds. If I would have put out a video or something for Thursday, I would have put Browns plus 3.5. I wasn't ballsy enough to think they were going to win that, but
You should have been.
yo, they won.
You've
That's,
been
that's
a
insane.
little crazier earlier in the year. So.
Well, I like to pick
Ride out
the
that
underdogs.
confidence.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit here and pick people that are obvious wins. Like today, the Lions are obviously going to win. They're probably like minus 700 on the money
jinx
line.
'em. I did parlay the over
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we'll get
and
into some
against the spread.
gambling
so.
recommendations later. Again, like I said, I stay away from the heavy favorites. I'm trying to pick something with some skill involved, and I'm not doing too bad. We'll check that out a little later in the show.
Damn, the set's looking good. We got Skelly Eyes lit up. We got a turkey here for Thanksgiving. It's
We've
over here
updated a
somewhere.
little, and if you notice the little bar on the bottom with the logo, we got our brand out there a little bit
Yeah.
more. We're trying to upgrade a little.
Getting snazzy out here. Big
Uh,
fan approves.
We went our second week out of our weeks without being copyrighted last week. It's not consecutive, but last week, no
Yeah.
copyright issues. We did have some internet issues, but no copyrights.
We were jamming with the copyrights before the show, though.
Ooh, and I like this one. Let me pump this one up a little bit for the people.
Maybe we can get somebody on and do some house music for us one week. I know a guy.
Yeah, we know a little DJ too. Maybe we can get a DJ guy to come in here and just mix some stuff
Yeah,
up.
you know,
As long as he gets our name right, but.
Ryan from DCD does a little DJing on the side. A little house music.
Anyway, what do you say? You want to move along to the Week 12 NFL rankings as we sit here and try to kick the vibes up on that fantasy show, Week 12 of the NFL season. There are 6 teams on a bye week this week. It's gonna be a little slim out here. If you are looking for some help, we're gonna go over some rankings, and we're gonna sit here and try to guide you through some spots. So I myself have, in both of my leagues, most of my team on a bye week, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people. When there's 6 teams on a bye, you're gonna be missing somebody. So I pretty much saw that all year. I tried to plan accordingly, but I have a lot of people on the same 2 teams, so what are you gonna do? I chalked this week as a loss. However, in those scenarios, you still want to compete. You know,
'cause you never know. Last week in the Dynasty League, I'm like, oh man, I was in a rough position, and I still was one decision away from winning that week. So anything can happen. So don't count yourself out. Put up your best effort.
That's a good point.
Set that roster.
Put your best effort forward. You don't know what's going to happen. So we'll get over into the closing with Steve Leave, and we'll look and see how bad it is. But right now, let's on the quarterback rankings for Week 12 as I calm down that little. I like how the beat dropped on that one a little bit
as
too.
always, Fantasy Pros coming in with the rankings, consensus expert picks. So that's averaged out here. You're going to get your best overall average. If that's what you look for. And I like that statistically.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into the boring math stuff. I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've
PPR
kept it kind of
rankings.
simple on this show too. We haven't gone too deep into the statistics. A lot of our listeners are beginners. However,
And we got the chat overlay this week. So while we're going through the rankings, participate in the chat. We want to see your comments.
hey everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
And
everyone's
if you
a little
catch us
camera
after the
shy
fact
this
live,
week.
thank you for that as well.
Chat's usually going by now.
So as we
We'll let you
go
wake up.
over the rankings, obviously the teams that are not on bye, there are still some top regular players here. Obviously Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. I expect big days out of these people.
Resurgence from Justin Herbert back into the top 5.
Justin Herbert
after a
right there in the top 5.
season-long
Kyler Murray,
hiatus.
the young fella Bo Nix having a great season. If you have him, he's set it and forget it the rest of the season. A guy I like to have a big game today. He hasn't had the best fantasy-wise season. However, his team's doing well. They just suffered their first loss last week. Patrick Mahomes. I love this matchup today. This is one of those typical games where he stat stuffs. It's on the road against a bad team and in the 1 p.m. slot. It's not like a big national game. This is a game to me where he could easily 275,
Slated
300
to go
yards.
off, just
Yeah.
have a sneaky good week.
He's going to find, Kelsey or Hopkins for a touchdown or 2. I said he could have 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think their running game's going to be a little better this week, which will open up the passing game a little more. Just if you have him and you haven't had any big weeks from him yet, kind of expect a little bit of a bigger week this week.
Yeah, and then we got Baker just outside the top 10, still struggling to break that top 10. I think last week they were on bye, coming back. Speaking of buys, we skipped right over our buy content, and you had a nice little graphic. So I think before we jump,
Yeah,
deep
let's
into the
throw that
rankings,
up there. We
throw it
got a
up there.
second.
Here's the buys. You got
So if you have any of the players on these teams, you got to ride the wave this week. So
yeah, Saints.
also, I
Bills,
did spend a
Falcons.
few minutes on that graphic,
Bengals.
not a long time, but I put
Hey,
together something there real quick.
Remind the people, we got somebody on that team. They're in your starting lineup. You need to switch it up. real
Yeah,
quick.
so you
All
got
right.
guys, and I have a lot of Bills and I have a lot of Bengals, so it's gonna
Hey,
be
we got some chat. Wife,
chat. Hey everybody,
Riri,
what's up? Thank you for
Harry,
your support.
what's up? Happy Sunday.
A lot of
y'all.
our support is
Yeah.
our family and friends, and that's basically who we making the show
Hey,
for.
if
And
that
then if we,
show's just for them, I'm cool with that.
yeah,
Having
and then if
fun.
some strangers hop along, hey, we love strangers too. Pick a side. I'm red, he's blue. What are you gonna do, stranger?
Stranger danger.
Anyway, like you said, Baker in the rankings there. I liked that matchup, how you brought him up there. New York Giants, again, obviously a lower tiered league team. I'm not going to pile on them or whatever, but Baker Mayfield, good matchup. It's on the road. Good for fantasy wise. Foreshadowing, though, I want to talk about that game future when we get to my gambling recommendations.
Yeah. If you're in a bye, what QBs can you sneak in there?
So that's a good question. Since I was on a bye, we can talk about the fella that I did. He does not have a great matchup. However, I'm starting him off of pedigree. Number 16 there, Brian. If you want to pull up Mr. Matthew Stafford, well known in my new hometown here, the Detroit area. So we'll get into the Closing with Steve League, and we'll see the waiver wires, and we'll see who's available. It was basically between him and someone else in a lesser matchup for me. I just took Matt. I'm expecting 12 to 15 points. If I get that out of him, I feel like that is success for me. However, it could be more. He's got a healthy receiving core, and that could be a higher scoring game. So for fantasy purposes, that's who I decided to roll with. I have Joe Burrow on a bye, and I don't roster a backup QB. That's not my style. I have a QB. If he's healthy, we're going to go. And then when he has his bye week, I'll figure it out that bye week.
Especially on a redraft league. That's just an extra spot you need to stack up with a running back or receiver.
And
Dynasty, definitely hold on to an extra QB. You're going to need one, and especially for
that could be good
developmental purposes. They could go off at any moment, and you want to stash some people. That's a good strategy for Dynasty. Some other names. Look, Tommy DeVito. If you haven't been following the Giants, they let Daniel Jones lose his position. He's out the back door.
Again, foreshadowing something for our gambling segment later. I do expect that for fantasy purposes, that's actually going to be a good matchup. I expect points in that game. There could be turnovers in that game, but for fantasy purposes, you just need points.
I'm jumping over running backs. I'm seeing Kareem Hunt jumping into the top 10 of the PPR. Well, I think with Pacheco not coming back this week, this might be your last viable week to start Hunt. You might want to sit both Hunt and Pacheco after this week until we figure out how that backfield looks.
And again, that's a good matchup right there. Like I said, a lower tiered team in the league. They have a 1 o'clock slot. It's a business game for them. Everybody on that team, the Chiefs, they lost last week. They got to get their lick back. They're going to show up. They're going to go to work. And big game. So if you have Mahomes or if you have Hunt, I'm comfortable with them in fantasy.
Hey,
but
how about me on Dynasty? I got Achane, Henry, Hunt, and Jacobs. I put Jacobs into the flex position this week just because I have a bad taste in my mouth from Hunt. I don't know. I guess I can't go wrong with either guy, but
yeah, that's an embarrassment of riches right there.
But I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I would love to be in that position because when we get to my
Stevenson
lineup
too, so he just chills on the bench. I think we passed the trade deadline, so I'm stuck with the stacked running back room. That's all right.
So in this scenario, though, where if you have people on a bye, what do you think? We're going to be in like the 18 to 30 range, where there's going to be
18 to 30,
possibly your best options. A name that jumped out of me last night when I was doing research for the Las Vegas Raiders, number 27 in the rankings this week. 26, I'm sorry, Amir Abdullah. He's just going to get all the work. So off of sheer workload and his availability in probably most fantasy leagues, because he's not rostered in the two leagues that we're in.
Two guys going on doubtful, so
yeah, two guys are not playing today. This guy is going to get all the work. I don't know if that translates into touchdowns, but obviously if there's a touchdown opportunity, he's going to get the cracks at it. This is a guy, if you got somebody on a bye week and you don't trust somebody else on your team, they had a bad week, I'd take a flyer. Amir Abdullah. He jumped out at me last night when I was doing the research. In the Dynasty League.
I mean, that's a recommendation we need to give people. Like, if it's somebody you're not thinking of, they're probably on the waivers.
And obviously he's pretty high on these rankings compared to where he's been all season. Obviously he was much lower on the depth chart. And again, he could come out and he could not perform well, but just off of sheer volume that he's going to see today, which if you're in a sticky situation, that's what you're going to want, is you're going to want the volume that you can get to where he has the opportunity to possibly get in the end zone, at least get 3 or 4 catches.
Volume in some ways can be better than sheer talent, because all NFL players have some degree of talent. I don't know, I might be stretching when I say this, but I like volume statistically, especially for fantasy. Someone could be dog shit, and if they have enough volume, they're going to punch in a couple goal line touchdowns.
Absolutely.
So.
If you're getting 12 targets and you catch 7 of them, that's wonderful. I'll take it. I'd rather that than you get 8 targets and catch 6. I want more targets, more opportunity to be able to get the stats, which is what fantasy is all about. And a lot of people get confused from fantasy and people on an actual good football team. No, people on bad football teams, which, sorry, Las Vegas, you're not a good football team, but this guy can produce stats for you. Fantasy, I don't care what your NFL record is.
We talk about good teams sometimes. Like, look at the Detroit Lions. They're just loaded in offensive talent, but that can be a blessing and a curse because you could have a solid guy that he might not do anything a week, but the team's still going to blow out the other team.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you got like St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, even J-Mo, like you got 5-6 offensive weapons. I mean, they're going to put up solid numbers most weeks, but you could have a week where they put up subpar single-digit weeks because there's just so much talent there. And then some good football teams, they operate in different ways. Like look at Buffalo. You don't have any real standout position players aside from maybe running back and quarterback. You're looking at wide receivers, tight ends. They spread the ball so much, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they just play well as a team. So like I said, you got to look for scenarios where there's high volume. And even on a good team, it may just be spread so thin. It could be anybody.
Yep, and Las Vegas, they're bottom feeders in the league, but
and
give you offensive relevancy.
And for a guy like Amir Abdullah, he's 31 years old. That's like ridiculously old in running back ages. So, this is another one of his final shots to showcase his talent. I just expect him to do something. He's a guy I would take a shot. I didn't have a roster spot available in the Closing with Steve League, or I would jump on that. We'll get into that in a second. It's tough because I would actually have to get rid of somebody that I like for the future.
Yeah.
So also in the rankings, I wanted to go real quick. Justice Hill. So he's a guy I had to start in the family league, first and goal league that we're in. And he's just Derrick Henry's backup, and he does not get volume and opportunity. However, I'm just banking on a scenario where, again, Baltimore lost last week. They didn't look good offensively, where and by good I mean putting up 30 or something, or Lamar absolutely having a crazy stat game. For me today, I think for Baltimore, this is a crazy stat game day, and so crazy that they'll rest Derrick Henry, and if you have to, Justice Hill could come in and get you a little bit of cleanup work, third quarter, fourth quarter. Maybe when he does come in, he gets an opportunity out of the backfield. Obviously, he got 7 targets last week, and he had 4 catches. So just off of sheer receiving alone.
Just receiving targets, you would start a guy in those numbers if you were desperate.
So, and this is a week where you're going to be desperate. So Justice Hill, he's a guy I'm desperate, and I'll do that. And then it gets even thinner. Also, Zach Charbonnet, he's another guy. You got to take a chance on. He's a backup from somebody, but he does come in and he does get receiving targets, and when he has had his opportunities, he's performed well. I don't know what to expect out of this game today, but
some of these guys you just roster in the high possibility that the lead back gets injured. I mean, Kenneth Walker, he's definitely had some injuries. Derrick Henry, who we just talked about, he's had injuries in his career. These high workload guys are going to be more susceptible to injuries. So if you got a free roster spot, just roster a guy who's a backup.
Yeah, and if, like I said, if you're in a sticky situation, your regular starter's on a bye, that's the kind of guy I want to start, the guy who's going to have opportunity. And that also bodes well for going forward into this. We're going to talk about better fantasy teams that are preparing for the playoffs. One of the strategies that I always do for myself, I'll recommend to viewers and anybody else, you're going to want to, with your extra roster spots, stash backups to stars, especially older stars that are more susceptible to injury. So if someone doesn't have Jordan Mason in your league, he's not getting work right now. Christian McCaffrey's back, but I'd still hold on to Jordan Mason, because if McCaffrey gets injured, boom, you got the guy right there who's going to get the volume like we just talked about. So what I'm looking for when I'm going on preparing for the playoff run is I'm trying to stash my bench with backups to possible guys that could be injured, or people with good matchups in the fantasy season. So that's or the fantasy playoff season. So now if we're week 15, 16, 17 in the NFL season, which is the fantasy playoffs, maybe I want a guy that has a good matchup against the lower tiered teams, so
excellent advice. Looking at matchups towards the end of the year, especially if you're looking at picking up somebody off the waivers, just look at their matchups. They might have a favorable matchups.
Maybe not this week.
We haven't really talked about streaming kickers and defenses, but that's a viable strategy as well. Especially in the playoffs, you want to put your best roster forth, and that definitely includes
I actually
kickers and
wanted to get
defense.
into that. More of the underappreciated aspect of fantasy. We've kind of skipped over them all year. If we can go into our graphics, I did send a folder over that had the season leaders,
Ooh.
and they are labeled by position when you're scrolling through the drive there to try to find that. We could pull those graphics up, and it's just the top fantasy scores of the season. And let's go over to kickers and defense for a minute, because a lot of people are in that scenario this week where you had a kicker on one of the 6-bye teams, or I personally stream defenses, and that's my strategy. I usually keep the same kicker, but this week he's on a bye, and also he kind of sucks right now. They used to call him Money Mac, and now they call him Evan McMissfearson.
Okay, it's just on the Crows site. We can jump back into the website.
Okay. Well, yeah, wherever that is there. So,
let's see. We got NFL. Just bear with us.
Yeah, no worries. I just want to jump right in to talk about whatever's on the screen, just because you could look at the season-long rankings. So if you're streaming defenses or kickers for the rest of your season, now is when you want to look at the overall scoring, leaders on the season, because you're going to want to pick people based off of this list. You're not going to go off of the past old rankings. You're going to want to go with people that are doing it. And when you see the list, it may surprise you when you look at who's the top 10 overall scores, the top 10 quarterbacks, the top 10 running backs. It's not going to be like guys that you thought when you were drafting, when everybody was in round one and we're taking Patrick Mahomes as the first quarterback, or everybody wants to take Josh Allen as the first quarterback. Well, the top 2 scoring quarterbacks on the year are Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. You could have got them much later in your draft, and you could have got higher value on your running backs or your receivers, which is a typical way to draft. You want to get the value on your running backs and your receivers. And then when you look at, speaking of receivers, a lot of people thought that the top scoring receivers would be Justin Jefferson or Amon-Ra St. Brown. And those 2 guys are 2 and 3, but number 1 was Jamar Chase, and he went, towards the end of the first round, early second round in a lot of the leagues that I've seen. So
yeah, I love looking at season rankings just in terms of scoring when you're thinking about guys to pick up.
Yeah, because now you want people that have actually produced. Because all that matters, I don't care about what you did last year, 2 years ago for somebody's fantasy team. What have you done this season and where your points are stacking up? So, again, I needed a kicker, and I took a guy who was in top 5 overall scoring on the season because my guy wasn't. And then when we talked about matchups, I looked at his matchups for the fantasy playoffs. So now I picked up a guy who I think will bode well for that. So in an underappreciated position, like the kicker position is, I just wanted to show a little love, and I actually put forth some effort now, because I set it and forget it all year, and I've probably hindered myself because...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely stream defenses, and I have a few resources I look at for doing that. With kickers, I might be in position to go away from Brandon Aubrey for the rest of the year, just the way Dallas operates, and Mike McCarthy is... I don't know he's got something rattling in his brain.
It's a good point.
I don't know what's going on.
And their offense isn't moving as fluent as it was before, so which presents less opportunities for volume, which is like we were talking about before. You want volume. All right, so how are we doing so far? We're moving along on time. We got on time this morning.
How about
got this lavender haze drink? It tastes like cotton candy. This thing's delicious.
There's some THC in that.
A little bit.
Hey, talk about branding right there.
What?
You got Taylor Swift coming to your city. You're a local Indianapolis brewery. You label it lavender haze. You put some THC in there. You're in a haze. Hey.
Well, I'm a Swiftie, bro. Count me in. Let's go.
All right. What do you say?
I've been known to dabble a little here and there.
Let's finish going through the Week 12 rankings. Receiver.
Okay, let's go over to receiver. Receiver is a great point.
Let me get
because there are still some studs playing this week, even though people like Jamar Chase are off. A guy I like this week, Nico Collins. This is a scenario where, again, a Houston team going against a lower tiered NFL team trying to get their lick back. They got to get that offense rolling. They're trying to prepare for the playoffs themselves. So Nico Collins just came back from his injury a week or two ago. I just expect a bigger week from him, more so in the volume and the targets. He's obviously a huge red zone threat, but hit or miss whether he gets the end zone today. But I like at least 8-9 targets. So if you got Nico Collins, congratulations, you're rolling. The top 15, hopefully you got one of these guys. Like with 6 teams on a bye, that's an opportunity of at least 18 receivers that somebody had that are on a bye. So the top 20 looks a little different this week, because most teams, you got 2 viable starting receivers, most of them.
Hopefully. Otherwise, you're not in a playoff position.
Well,
probably.
I'm not starting 2 Browns, but,
Yeah. Hey, you could.
You could these days,
This
but
week, but
not too popular. I like Terry McLaurin's matchup. Washington has a home matchup again. Dallas, I'll put them in the lower tiered team too. You only got 3 wins and your quarterback's hurt. And they may be just looking to this Thanksgiving game. Dallas, they're probably pretty much checked out on the season.
Yeah, just looking at some of these names that stand out to me, like preseason, rookies or just sleeper picks, waiver ads, like Josh Downs, that was a waiver guy. Vlad McConkley.
Yeah, if you'd have told me
Malik Neighbors, rookie.
1 that the 12th ranked receiver in week 12 would be Ladd McConkey, I'd be like, you've had too much of these Lavender Hazes.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
People were sleeping on the Chargers. Harbaugh's coming in, run heavy, not a whole lot of flair on that Michigan offense that won the Natty. But you come in here, Herbert's getting some footing, right?
Well, speaking of that
Fantasy relevance.
Harbaugh offense, I got to start Mr. Quentin Johnston down there. He's ranked 24 receiver this week.
Yeah, you got a couple up there.
And like you said, Herbert's rolling along. That offense is doing his thing. And they're a typical Harbaugh team. They run the ball well, which is creating
action, right?
And it's creating opportunities for Herbert. He's looking good. And, Herbert was, for the last few years talked about as a top 5 quarterback, kind of fell off with the team not performing as well, because football's a team game, no matter how talented you are as a quarterback. But what do we got? Something in the chat there? I don't understand
it's
what
some
that
weird
says.
bot stuff. I'm trying to figure out how to delete it.
What's good, bot? Thanks for tuning in, bot. We don't understand your question, but
yeah, don't click that link, anybody.
Yeah,
That's
don't click on anything.
Don't click on that.
I don't click on stuff anyway, but
No.
But again, another matchup I like you said, the Lions rolling right along. So if you have any of the Lions receivers today, Jameson Williams specifically is a guy who could be available in some leagues, or he was some people's stashes.
Tread carefully on the deeper Lions options. They could go off any week, but that's definitely a dice roll.
And I just think that game's going to produce a lot of points. Indianapolis has a lot of fight in them, and
hey, we got Chef Tony Rigmatoni in the chat. What's up, Chief?
Chef, what's good? Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Man, loyal viewers. We're making the show for people like...
Yeah. Chief asked me for some receiving recommendations. He had a kind of a debacle between, I think, McConkley, Zay Flowers, and Smith and Jigba. And look at them on these rankings. Bam, 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 right there.
Yeah. Well, I was in a sticky situation myself if you scroll down a little bit further to the rankings, because I had to decide between Quentin Johnston and DeAndre Hopkins.
Ooh.
And so that's a scenario, like we said, the Chiefs spread the ball out. It could be any given week. It could
Hopkins
be this guy,
had
this
that-
guy, this guy.
Was it like a 38-point week or something?
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, and then he's barely had anything the last 2 weeks. Could this be the week where it's Carolina, it's on the road, it's the 1 p.m. game? Like I said, this could be a stats game where they build up their numbers, and at the end of the year, it looks like, oh, these guys are so great. No, they just beat up on the lower level teams. This could be the one, so I have to decide which one I want to trust here in that scenario. And
We need Chief needs some help here.
let's go.
Richardson or Stafford or even Drake May.
I'm in that scenario myself. Okay, so I had to start Stafford, and I'm going to go ahead and just put my stamp on that. Richardson wasn't available, but May was, so I had to choose between Stafford, May. I forget who else. We'll jump over to the Closing with Steve League here in a second, but I chose Matt Stafford. He doesn't necessarily have the best matchup. Philadelphia has a good defense, and they're rolling right now, and they're especially good in the secondary. So.
Yeah. former Lion out there.
However, Matt Stafford, experienced Super Bowl winning quarterback, got his receiving core healthy, and they do have a running game. I just think that could be a game, produces a lot of points. Matt Stafford for me, but you
Over
could make
Richardson?
you could make a case
Yeah.
for me for Richardson.
Richardson scares me. You know, I think I've mentioned this before. Richardson, you're going to have a higher ceiling. He could go off and do some crazy things.
because he
Stafford's
could
probably
get the
gonna be
goal
more-
line rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
so
he-
even if he
he
gets
could
the
rush
yards,
for 50, 60 yards, a couple rushing touchdowns. You don't know.
yeah, that,
Especially rushing touchdowns are usually valued more than passing touchdowns. So you got that higher
So-
end threat.
I wonder if he has all of those available, or
I think they are available. So
or okay,
I don't know.
so yeah,
He asked me earlier in the week. I was like, well, I'd probably go Richardson. If you have nothing
Yeah.
to lose.
yeah, that's probably a better matchup for producing more fantasy points.
But if you need to play it safe, I put Stafford in there.
Yeah, Stafford's Mr. Steady. He's to me, he's at least 250 and at least a
Yeah.
touchdown or two. So that's where I would go. Oh, if you want to
Let's
spend
go
a
to the meat of
second
it.
on tight ends here,
Yeah,
I guess
typical stuff.
the tight ends again. It's
Will Disley. That's the riser in the rankings. I'd
and
say.
speaking of him, I picked him up in our first and goal league last week, and then the guy gets a touchdown in the first quarter of the game, and I feel like, oh, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that's how you got to be crafty on the waiver wire. You got to look for a matchup. And if you would have told me week 1, an experienced 19-year fantasy player, hey, in week 11, week 12, you're going to be starting Will Disley, I'd be like, dude, what are we doing?
What did fantasy look like 19 years ago?
So it wasn't as much online,
Yeah.
but it was
did you have a manual stat person?
so it was a draft in person, and it was
Yeah.
at this really cool restaurant. I'm not sure, it was in a suburb of Cleveland, so I wasn't there a lot, but so it was in person, and it took like 4 hours, and honestly it was fun because drafting in person, if you've ever done it, it's fun. However, if there's no time limit between picks, it's going to take a while because people talk, you wait. Yeah, this one was kind of good
Oh,
too. Let's
yeah.
turn that up. Yeah, so it was a while, but so anyway, that's the draft where I was crafty going into it. I knew to study backups of possible injured players, which
Yeah.
is funny. We just said that a minute ago.
The resources, there's so many now. You probably didn't have many then, so you could be, if you were more fluent in what's going on in the NFL, you probably had a
So
significant
I
advantage.
watched football a lot, and also I was a big Madden player.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew the people
That's
on
your
Madden.
database then.
And I knew your backups because of Madden, because on Madden players get injured too when someone comes in. So anyway, that season, Priest Holmes was the darling running back. Dating myself with that, I know a lot of our listeners are much younger than me, but Priest Holmes was the darling running back for Kansas
Yeah.
City, and they had a firing offense. And I was like, I'm gonna sneak. They just drafted a rookie running back from Penn State named Larry Johnson, and I was like, this guy's fire. I'm no matter what, I'm gonna have him on my
Hall
team.
of Fame career over there.
I drafted him earlier than he should have went. I remember I got a couple giggles, and I don't remember who else was on my team. I'm sure I had a Bengal or two. I think I had Chad Johnson. I did whatever I could for that, but
Joe Cinco.
so you know,
from the newer
it was
generation.
typical. It was just some online stuff. I'm not sure exactly how I pulled it off, but yeah, like I said, that year I won a championship. It was
Hell
a big
yeah.
old trophy. I thought I was gonna be winning forever, and then I didn't win a championship for like another
Speaking
12
of trophies,
years.
we might need to get a trophy for a couple leagues. We could get a spooky trophy for the family league. We need a dynasty trophy.
I'm
I
gonna
know
look-
there was some a little bit of throwing that around
yeah,
for
we
the first season.
We
and
can do that here and there, and also even besides a trophy, have you ever seen the championship belts? So
Oh,
there's a lot of options for that. Maybe we'll get with the guys and
we
talk
got
about
some
that.
WWE fans.
You know, we'll spend some
On the
money, or
channel.
as this show does a little better, if we start making some money, we can invest a little into the Closing with Steve League, because that's our bread and butter. That's how we got this
those
started.
rankings going.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
there's my little graphics right there.
Yeah,
Yay!
check
I
out-
did spend some time on this
Yeah,
last
check
night,
out
so I'm glad we
total
got that
points.
working.
Total points on the far end here. So we got our top ranked defenses on the year.
And this
Minnesota
one is fire.
Vikings,
We're gonna come back to this one. This one is at
Broncos,
40
Steelers,
minutes.
Bills.
Okay.
Yeah, those
Sorry.
top four in preseason, you probably wouldn't have thought they'd be there. Especially with the Vikings. The Vikings have been kind of a success
Yeah.
story with Darnold kind of leading the way. JJ McCarthy.
And if you can read their
Prayers up.
point total right there, it's consistent.
Yeah.
Every week, it's consistent. So streaming, like you said, me and you, we like to stream defenses.
Yeah.
But as we get closer to the playoffs, this is where you're going to want to start looking at
I'll hang
who's
on
the
to
total
one.
point scores.
Yeah.
So I don't care about early season rankings or nothing. Right now, this is the top 8 that's produced this season that we're looking at on screen there. And I'm looking at matchups during the playoffs. So it's about time to chill out on the streaming a little bit and be prepared for the playoff matchups. However, still be available to possibly stream. But there you go. There's your season leading defense.
I've had Chargers, Vikings on a couple leagues. I've seen people pick up the Broncos. They kind of come in and out of lineups. There are a couple.
The Lions
rough
have
weeks.
never been available in our 2 leagues.
Oh, that happens in a Detroit-based fantasy.
I
league.
currently have Pittsburgh right now in both leagues. I was streaming,
Go Pittsburgh.
and so I'm streaming. Yeah, go Pittsburgh for our Pittsburgh listeners. We do have 2 of them.
Old school there.
But so they're number 3 in the rankings right there. So now I was streaming all year, and then at week 12, when it's time to get serious, it's like, oh, I own the top 3 defense in fantasy scoring. So
yeah, the Broncos and Steelers definitely surprising teams this year.
but hang on to them for fantasy purposes.
What else
So
we got in
if
here?
we have this, I have every position
Oh.
loaded up. So this is kickers.
kickers.
Again, if you've been streaming kickers,
Go
it's
Pittsburgh.
about time to lock in, look at their matchups. Besides looking at their matchups against teams, look at their matchups indoor, outdoor, because that
Yeah,
can help with
that's-
your fantasy playoffs.
Especially on kickers, they have to be the most weather-dependent position in football.
And if you had a kicker in the snow game, are you comfortable?
hell no,
So,
you don't know in December football,
These
January football.
and these are the top 8 scoring kickers right here. So I've been holding on to Evan McPherson, and he's number 15. So I was being loyal.
Yeah,
Loyalty
Bengal
had
love
me
over
mid.
there.
Yeah, it had me mid. So I don't want to be mid. I want to be great.
Yeah.
I'm studying to be great.
Oh, Justin Tucker's looking shaky last couple weeks. Aubrey too. I mean, man, I was watching that Dallas game. Aubrey hits a 60-yarder or 50-some yarder. I'm going against the other defense. That's like a 10-point swing for me. It's taken off with the
Absolutely.
penalty, and then they go down and don't get any points. And it is hard
It's
to
tough.
watch Dallas.
And like I said, we overlooked this position, but we've left some points on the table clearly, disregarding this position. So I have picked up, I forget who. Oh, Saunders in both leagues, and
Is that Miami?
yeah, and so their offense had a stagnant period where Tua
It too
wasn't
back,
playing. So Tua's back. They're going to be having scoring opportunities, which is volume, like we talked about. You want people with volume, opportunities. He's going to be shooting. He's just outside the leaderboard there. I
Look at
couldn't fit him
number-
in the graphic.
Number
but
4, Washington Cyber. He hasn't even played 3 weeks. He's out the last 2 weeks with injury. I don't know his designation today, but I have him in the Dynasty League. I got Aubrey and Cyber, and I was just hanging on to him because he's looking good on that
Yeah,
Washington
he has
offense.
3 weeks where he didn't play, and he's still number 4 in the scoring
that's
there. so.
crazy. But it's like you can't start a questionable kicker. Let's see what his status is. I'm just looking on the browser.
So as you're doing that, like I said, you want to lock into a kicker. Cameron Dicker for the Chargers, Younghoe Koo for the Falcons. These guys play in
Says he will
roofed
return.
stadiums. So
Expected to play.
yeah, so those, I'm looking for guys for kickers indoors matchups weeks 15, 16, 17 if you're preparing for your fantasy playoffs. You want to set yourself up as best as possible.
Yeah.
You don't want to be streaming and risking anything in the fantasy playoffs. You're going to need every point you can get. If we can move along with the
Let's
graphics,
burn
like I
through
said, I
these.
did every position. This is the
QB.
overall right here. This is
Overall?
the
Okay.
overall fantasy scores. So when everybody was
Okay.
drafting, this is the top 10.
Derrick
But the
Henry's in
drafts
there.
didn't look like this. Lamar
No.
Jackson, where did he go in drafts?
Quarterbacks do not go in the first few rounds, typically the last few years, and
Oh.
they are usually the higher end overall point leaders not in fantasy leagues. But the quarterback position, it's such an available position for the most part that you can pick up guys weekly that are going to put up solid numbers that you don't want to waste an early round pick. That's why the receivers and running backs go so early, because there aren't many that end up in these
Right.
rankings. So,
Right. And in the top 6 there's obviously 4 quarterbacks, but Jamar Chase and Derrick Henry, they weren't in the top picks of rounds. Jamar Chase, like I said,
only top 10 receivers.
Jamar Chase was low 1 and high 2, depending on the league, unless there was a Bengals fan in there. And then Derrick Henry, he was probably, again, lower 1.
Yeah. He's getting old. He's on a new offense. You don't know what to expect.
But
there's a lot of hype in the first couple weeks. I mean, he's just been a touchdown machine. So
I kind of like this one too, Brian.
Let's just burn through these real fast. We can get
so then, and then this one right here was just the overall quarterback rankings. Again, Jackson, Burrow, Hurts, Allen. But Baker Mayfield, he was available late. Jaden Daniels, he was probably waiver wire pickup. Bo Nix. So
probably not drafted mostly.
So, like I said, you want to lock in. These are your overall who's got the points right now. Running backs, your typical suspects at the top 4 there. Maybe the top 5 or 6 there was typical. Joe Mixon, maybe a lot of people didn't expect him to stay top 10. Achane
this
there.
One here, Kyren Williams, that was good.
Kyren Williams, and even James Cook
pick.
rounding out the top 10 there. Like I said, if a lot of people are a novice fan, James Cook, he's a top 10 running back.
Brock Bowers.
So he came out of nowhere. George Kittle, usual suspect. Travis
Kelce.
Kelce.
2 years, tight ends. Laporta last year and Bowers this year. That is very unusual. Tight ends take a few years to acclimate to the NFL. You don't see guys coming out making fantasy impact in year 1.
Which is case in point with Kyle Pitts there, who's still at number 6, not necessarily having what you would call the best season. But
he's actually producing for once. It's been 3-4 years where he's gonna be the guy, and he's finally almost the guy. But
this shows you how the tight end position hasn't exactly been that exciting. Even Travis Kelce, he went all of those weeks without scoring a touchdown. He's still number 3 in the fantasy scoring.
Taysom Hill, 42 points last week,
which shot him up to number 12.
So he was probably 30-40. You got some third string tight ends ahead of him.
I like this.
All right, let's the last graphic here.
And then that's just receivers. Receivers, it's going to be the typical. The most surprising ones, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, Daryl Mooney in the top 10.
Mooney.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
We gave
wide
Mooney
receiver
some
10. So these weren't guys drafted in the top 10 receivers in the beginning of drafts. So this
People
just goes
that win
to show.
leagues are waiver wire sharks at the beginning of the year. You got to be a waiver wire shark if you want to win. Yeah.
You can't just draft your team and ride with them all year.
That'd be the luckiest fantasy season ever if you have the same team all year and you can win it.
And then that just goes to show in our first and goal league, we started out crazy. That's because we didn't have the best drafts, and now we're rounding out and we're almost making the playoffs there. And it's because we've been managing this waiver wire. We've been paying attention. We've been reading these stats, which, like I said, we don't get too deep into the stats here on this show, but I look at air yards and I look at target shares and stuff like that, which is a little more advanced for some of our viewers. And you got to, you want to win, you got to go the extra mile.
Season 2 of that fantasy show for the pre-football season, we should get into some statistical analysis.
Oh, I can't
wait. To prep you up. Oh, man, there's so many possibilities.
Oh, we're going to do a whole build-up to the season, and we should do, I thought about for season 2 of the fantasy show, for our rookie draft, we should do that live. We could speed that up. But we could do it as a live show, and we could even have people in person if they wanted.
We could have in person. We could have Skype. We could bring
you could Skype me. You could text me. But we'll make it happen in one day. We'll put on a live show. We could do that in an hour or two.
Edition.
I'll do the suit thing. We can get people to boo me still.
Yeah. We got some couches.
Oh, I don't like this one as much.
We have seating arrangements.
I don't like this one as much. The music was fire. We didn't get too far into this. This one's more... This one feels like I just watched
jump over
something.
To the Closing with Steve.
Closing with Steve League, the Dynasty Fantasy Football League that is in year 2. As we look at the overall standings of the season.
2-game skid. Total points is in jeopardy. We had someone put up almost 200 points 2 weeks in a row in the Illyria Pioneers, chipping away.
And then last week there was another owner who put up over 200 points.
At the Banana Slug?
Yes, Ben Phillips. Congratulations. I'll give Ben a round of applause for that. And we'll give him this one, too. Good job, Ben. 200 points.
Hope you're watching.
That's a guy who was towards the bottom of the league last year, like myself, and he's built himself a decent team. And
yeah,
good for him. As these rankings have thinned out a little bit, as it is tied at the top in overall standings, and there's some crucial matchups this week. as we take a look at some of the early matchups. The Thursday night game produced the dud. As you look at a lot of the scores in those matchups there, 5-3, 0-19, 7-0, 7-0, 12-8. That looks like there was a JV game on the other night. So as we look a little different this week, I love the branding in the background. I love our red and blue on still. Excited for the game this week coming up. I like how we look this weekend. No issues so far. So as we go into the Closing with Steve League, what would you like to look at there? You want to jump into a specific matchup?
I'm just trying to get the browser to look good here. Let me fix the screen.
Okay, yeah. Do what you got to do. So I'm in a sticky situation this league where I roster Joe Burrow, James Cook, Jamar Chase. I had the kicker. I also had Dalton Kincaid, who is an injury, but also it's a bye week, so he may or may not have played this week. Oh, that looks a little better right there.
Yeah, so here's my matchup with Gary. Gary's looking at a lot of buys this week. Throw his bench here.
Yeah, and Gary's in a crucial jockeying for playoff position right here. And just like last season, he ended up having to fight his way into the playoffs, and he fought all the way to the finals.
This is going to be his hardest week in terms of buys. My team is charging back from the bye week. Still a little slim at receiver. Steve Tillman only put 3.8. Gary had more. That was kind of an abysmal receiver performance outside of Jerry Jeudy. I did trade for Darnell Mooney. That might be, my playoff life.
Yeah, and I didn't realize he was so high on the overall season points right there. So you just traded for wide receiver 9 for next year's second-round draft pick. And you're not using that right away. For you, you're on a playoff run. And in a dynasty league, for the owner that made that trade, you got to, when you're jockeying for the future.
Jake has 4 rookie picks next year.
Oh, he's going to build
4 top 20 rookie picks. There's going to be a couple guys out of that are going to be fantasy relevant immediately.
So he's trying to build out, and I love that strategy too. That was me last year. I hoarded some picks last year, and then I traded a couple, but I did hoard. At one point, I had 4 picks last year and traded 2, but
he started Chubb, and Chubb probably didn't get started in a lot of leagues, so good foresight from Ernest.
Yeah, and Ian, the Detroit Ballers, he's having a wonderful season. Again, was towards the bottom of the league, and he's fighting for a playoff spot. So I don't know how much E checks out the show, but we'll shout him out. Give him a round of applause, too. Congratulations, you're having a good season, and it looks like he's dealing with bye weeks just like me. So here's my team, the Elyria Pioneers, going against Damian Grimm and the Miami Is, which I like his team name. We're not going to make him change that. Funny story with his team name, because I'm sure people read that every week. I told Damian specifically, you have to have a team name that has a city, because we need to place you on the map for geological purposes.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, it's going to be Miami. And I said, okay, well, the name can be anything you want. I don't care what's that. It's just, you got to have a city. So he came up with this, and I was like, okay, I guess I didn't specifically say you had to have anything else.
You didn't break the rules.
So he didn't do anything wrong. Right. So also, I like saying it with a question mark there, because I can go Miami Is. But anyway,
explaining that.
So yeah, I'm sure you didn't know that either.
I'm not sure if there's like a background story to that.
There is. Yeah, that was it. And it's just that simple. And I recommended one though. Tell me how cool this name is. The Miami Vice. You could have been the Miami Vice. I think that's cool. And he obviously used the Miami color way there. Yeah, I just thought it was him. But also. Damian's unique. I like that. And,
I used a, what's the word? Not real. It's a, Haddonfield.
Yeah.
No. It's Haddonfield, Illinois, from the Halloween franchise. Isn't a real city. There are Haddonfields, not in Illinois. There's still there's the East Coast one, so I still ended up on partially East, and I got moved to the West Division with realignment this year. But
yeah, and I like how we did that. I'm in a baseball league, which for the future, foreshadowing, probably have some fantasy baseball content, but you have to be one of the Negro League teams, and, obviously you pick a city. It has to have existed at some point, and it's for geographical purposes. You get divisionally placed by that, and there's 16 teams in that league. So I've always liked that, and I thought that was fun for this league, instead of everybody making up some...
Oh, it was cool.
And there's some cool team names that people make up for fantasy every year, but we wanted consistency and professionalism for our Closing with Steve League, as we've scrolled through some lineups here, and you can tell that the bye weeks, they're rough for everybody. So if you're dealing personally
16 bye week this
with
late in the season
bye
is
weeks,
a wild card.
yes, just know that everybody is. So just ride the waves. Like we said, do some research. Look for people who are available that are higher up on the scoring leaders list. Look for people that are possible injury replacements, and like I said, just get through the week. It gets a little, there's still people on bye the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, they don't end until the first week of the playoffs for fantasy.
Yeah, so even though we're in a fantasy playoff push, the NFL, they're still got to take their breaks. So
we're in the family league.
First and goal. I love this league. Let's go. So as we look at the standings here, the usual suspects are still at the top. It's Uncle Kurt, our father-in-law Russ, and then Kyle. They've been leading pretty much all year, and they're still at the top.
Russ made a drop. Russ's Wicked Wolves. Anthony's Nightmare on Brush Street.
I'm still scared of Russ's team.
Still scared of Russ's team.
Still
I'm going
scared.
against Russ's team. I think he is riddle with bye weeks.
Yeah, he's dealing with Chase and Allen on a bye this week.
Give ourselves a pat on the back. We got Crystal Lake Lifeguards, Gridiron Cannibals making a resurgence. We were both, I think, 1-5. We've had a 4-1 run the last 5 weeks, and we're playoff relevant.
I've been locked
percentages here. Yeah,
I've been locked in.
There's
if you pull up that projected playoff bracket too, I think you can click right up there above on the top of the thing. Projected playoff bracket. It lets you know who's in now. Which, okay, that's everybody. Congratulations,
Okay,
you're currently
you're not in yet.
there. But if you scroll down right below that,
first team's out.
we are knocking on the door.
We got 4 teams, 5 and 6, fighting for playoff position.
So, and that's just goes to show you got to be crafty. You're never
And
really
then
out of it.
Out of the 5 and 6 teams, Russ is the only one in the projected playoffs.
Yeah, so you got to stay
So
with
there's
it.
5 teams fighting for that one spot.
I know sometimes it can be a long season if you're not doing as well. So, a lot of people, it's obviously fun to enjoy this when you're winning, but you got to ride the waves. You can't win every time. Like I said, have you ever seen in your fantasy league somebody go undefeated? Never seen it.
It's very rare. I think I had a 1-loss season, and that season
I've seen 1 loss 1 time, and I see 2 and 3 losses a lot, but I've seen only 1 loss 1 time. You're gonna take some losses.
Yeah, Russ, look at the bias. Jamar Chase, Josh Allen,
even tight end Evan Ingram. Yeah, that stuff. You got to ride the waves in the fantasy season. One of them is sometimes there is 6 teams on a bye week at the same time, and we're dealing with that right now in this week. So in this league, people are still jockeying for position. There are still about 8 teams that have a realistic shot. I think there's 2 teams towards the bottom. It doesn't look
Justin Herbert
as good. Yeah, Justin Herbert. He's got a good matchup this week. Like I said,
Mike and Umair.
Yeah, and I've seen Umair this week. Shout out to Nephew real quick, and he came in, and he's a little worried. He feels like his team's reeling. He's had a pretty solid team all year. He's dealing with a couple buys as well.
Yeah, he squeaked one out against me. Hey, we're running on time. We got 2 minutes before 11. Let's get Ella down here. Get the pick 6 in.
Okay, we can send Ella down, and then we will get over to the bets as... Ooh, I got a lot of text here, too. I just got that text, too. Send Ella down. We're prepared. I made these graphics last night.
Oh, yeah.
I put in some effort on these graphics.
Chugging along. We got some better interface this week, if you haven't noticed. We got the logo down at the bottom. We got the logo behind the browser overlay.
And for our viewers that may not notice, an observation I made when I first seen it is a bunch of the logos together kind of looks like flames if you're just like squinting your eyes a little bit. So, we got a legit show. That's the brand right there. I just came up with the name, like That 70s Show, That Fantasy Show. Hopefully that doesn't get us copyright issues in the future.
Right. No, we're good. We need to do a couple glow up reels from where we started, where we're going.
Yeah,
we've had some internet connectivity issues.
We're learning.
Week 1, it was just you and Ella. You had a TV in the background.
It's just me and Ella in my daughter Belle's bedroom.
Yeah.
on an iPhone 8. On an iPhone 8.
Straight from the
Legit,
iPhone.
the first episode and probably 80% of the shorts are filmed off an iPhone 8. I'm old school. I'm that typical dad who, until this thing breaks, I'm going to use
We
this
drive
thing.
until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I'll rock this one till the wheels fall off.
Oh, Ella speaking around the corner.
Come on, Miss Ella, you could come right over. It's okay. Yeah, this is a family
Come on,
show,
Ella,
and
let's
you
get the
part of
round
the show too.
applause.
This is Ella's show too. It's not just the
Family
boys.
show.
Miss Ella, hey baby, welcome.
All right, there we are.
Go on ahead, put up.
Ella
So-
6'6", 31-29 on the season. We're over 500.
Over 500, and if you follow along, she's been on fire lately because she didn't start out the hottest, but she looks pretty good now. So Ella, what do you say? You ready to go?
Ready? We're jumping into it.
I guess I'm ready.
We got a better offset screen this week. I figured out how to get the preview on the monitor. We don't got dual sources anymore. But first matchup here, Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New York Giants.
I'm gonna have to think real long and hard for this one, but
Yeah, this one's a tough one.
It's a head
when-
scratcher.
And that's why I put this here for you, because I didn't know what you would pick.
the New
Ooh.
York Giants.
Giants gained a
New York Giants. Shout out to Sharon and
DeVito.
Tim. We have family that big Giants fans. So New York Giants, first one.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Okay, this one didn't need much time. We don't have to rush this week, though. You got a minute here on your picks, so you can talk about them a little more if you want. But we can go to the next matchup.
Oh, this one's an
Detroit.
easy one. Literally easy.
Who do you got?
The Lions.
So I figured you would pick them, but there wasn't much to pick from this week because there's 6 teams that aren't playing this week. So we had to pick from something, and we kept your hometown team in there. Go Lions. What is their little chain? What do you say?
Forward down the field.
Okay, so the New York Giants, the Detroit Lions.
The Bears.
This one, the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears.
Divisional matchup.
Ella will
The
take the
Bears.
Bears.
Broncos.
Okay, so as we are
One of the
also
horses.
doing this, Ella's noticing the logos. Ella, this is awesome.
They
I'm
are.
sorry, I messed that up. Let's see that again. I'm a weirdo. Typical dad. Ella's noticing logos, and that's great. Week 12, and Ella has logo recognition. 6-year-old girl. Ella, when you see these two teams, do you know the logos?
Cardinals.
The Arizona Cardinals. Let's go. Arizona Cardinals over the Seattle Seahawks. And if we round them out,
Giants, Chiefs, Lions, the Bears, Broncos, Cardinals.
and let's go. So, Ella, how do you think you did this week with your picks? Was it exciting?
Yeah, but I feel like I did kind of good this week, so
So, how's things been going? You want to tell the people anything?
uh,
The microphone's yours.
well, my elf did come.
The Elf on the Shelf season is here. Coming
She-
pre-Turkey Day.
She was here in October.
Oh,
She's
we got
been,
an overtime, Elf.
she's been checking you out. She's got her eye on you. She's got to report back to
Eyes
Santa
on
everything you do.
like Skelly's eyes on you.
Where was she at today?
First I thought she went back to the North Pole, but when I looked at the treetop, she was on top of it like a crazy elf. So
Well, welcome back, Ella. What's your elf's name?
peppermint.
Peppermint. So we will be seeing Peppermint around the Eamon household here very soon.
Peppermint. That's
Okay.
a good name for an elf.
It is. Ella picked it.
Mhm.
So for your pick 6, Ella, you are having a great season. You're a lot of people's favorite part of the show. You have a lot of fans, so say hi to all your fans.
Hi fans.
Say thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to
Uh,
the fantasy show.
Is this your favorite part?
hmm
Well, thank you. So you're done with that. If you can stay or go, you can do whatever you want. But thank you. Ella's pick 6 for week 12.
Thank you, Ella.
Thanks, my babe. I love you.
I'm feeling the show this week.
Yeah, we're moving right along. The music's been good. This one's about to end.
We're
I'm about
here,
to
we're
switch it to our
there.
typical open. I don't know. Did we ever get to our regular open? The stream starting soon video? Because that bad boy is fire. As I try to get this going here.
He's got the Flames going.
Yeah, that's the regular one. I want to start this bad boy from the beginning.
Let's jump into our betting segment.
There we go. Got it going to the beginning.
The record on sweep 59%.
59%.
Money.
I'm in the money.
Yeah.
I want to be over 60. I'll take the 59%.
Not an age, but
yeah, I've only had 2 pretty bad weeks. Other than that, I've been positive money every week. So if you were just a weekly better, out of 11 weeks, I won you money 9 of them. Personally, I do bet these, and I usually use it for food money, and I eat good, as you know. I like to eat good.
I need to be more diligent in betting the show recommendations. I'm kind of here and there.
It's tough to be a responsible bettor because everybody wants to get rich.
Too many home run attempts, I think. That's kind of been my downfall.
And I do those too. No, I do those too. I just lost one yesterday. I'm a little sad about. There's an NBA bet I like to do, and I studied so hard for this stuff yesterday, and then it went.
Before we jump in, I'm going to give my betting recommendation for
Let's
the week.
go.
Detroit Lions covering the spread and over.
I like that. So when I looked at the public money, which is what I like to do for the betting, I do research. I don't just pull these bets out of my bottom here. That one was one where it was 98% of the money is on the Lions money line, and to cover the spread, what was the spread again? Points
was like 7.5.
I think it's 7.5. I think it was 80% of the money was on that.
Like
so
49.5, I think right now.
And that's a great bet. And to me, that was like more on the obvious side. So I went to strategically pick some a little harder this week.
I haven't hit on a couple bets in a few weeks, so I wanted to jump into something I was comfortable with.
And that's a great recommendation. Can't go wrong there. However, for my first official show recommendation this week, the New York Giants plus 5.5 is because Bison DeVito coming back. There was magic last season when this kid was there. So I don't know.
You check that agent out. He had the double-breasted pinstripe suit jacket on.
Put the word out. We're back up. That's what he said. Put the word out.
We're
absolutely.
Taking Giants plus 5.5.
So I like that. Just based off of magic alone last year, it was just crazy when he came in. There was some performance. Maybe the team has a spark.
I don't know. Yeah.
They've made some changes there.
Daniel Jones is out. Maybe the team's fired up. So ready to go.
So I like that. That's my first recommendation. And then this one.
The North.
It's a division game. They just changed offensive coordinators there. The offense has been a little stagnant. I look for some fire out of that team this week.
Bears just blew it against the Packers last week. Did you catch that kick? The Bears must be cursed on game-winning kicks.
Absolutely. They've been cursed overall as a franchise. Haven't been able to have a good quarterback. They
can't talk much about curses. We just got ours going. We had Peyton's Places. They did the curse ritual.
Yeah, they broke the curse there. I actually do believe in that was vital in that. That's great.
I should know the actor's name. I'm bad at pulling names.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, Peyton Manning and Jeff Daniels, they broke the curse of whatever that curse was. Something about a goat or something. I don't know.
The curse of Bobby Lane.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not too versed in
Lions QB at the height of the franchise in the 50s. I kind of dealt him dirty, and I think there was some bad blood, and that was the curse. That's
that
what
makes
people
sense.
Talking about.
I do believe in curses and magic and whatever kind of stuff, and that's what leads me to this game. So just think that the Bears can actually win. And then moving along to my last one, the Raiders. This is one where
another divisional matchup, right?
And this is at home. It's indoors. The Broncos riding high. They're probably starting to drink the tea. People are telling them that they're good. Oh, you guys are good. And when you start believing that and you're drinking your own tea, maybe you have a slip up. This could be a trap game. Also, this is a game where 90% or more of the public money is on the Denver Broncos to win, but the money line is only plus 200. When I see over 90% of the money, but then the money line odds are lower than they should be for that, this is one that just screams I think the Raiders could win. However, for recommendations, because I got a betting record here I'm trying to take care of.
Yeah. Here's our summary.
So, summary.
A couple spreads, one money line.
And this is staying away from the obvious. I could sit here and give you Chiefs and Lions all day, and those are pretty obvious, but then I'm not really making a effort. I studied this. This has time and effort put into this. This isn't just pulling these out of my bum. So we're going to look to get over 60% this week. I'm likely to go 2-1, which has been my style. Haven't had a clean sweep yet, but this one felt like a clean sweep when I was doing the research. So
we'll see what happens. I mean, we're paying dividends to the viewers. We're trying
see
to
what happens. And then I'm
give you
going to
some benefit for watching.
I'll bet that myself, and then I'm going to bet some crazy touchdown parlays. But I don't want to recommend that because gambling, you can get carried away and it could be irresponsible. And most people don't bet what you tell them anyway because they're going to do their own research and bet. But those ones you should bet. Those three, anything that I'm recommending, I'm putting a lot of effort and research into these. You know, on Saturday nights, I stay up till about 1:30 or 2 o'clock doing this little work for the show. And yeah, I was prepared for that. So
yeah, let's hear it from the chat. How do we like the new format of the show? We got some
anybody
graphics.
listening,
We got the set
appreciate our
improvements.
viewers.
You know, we're making chips here and there, little by little, making some improvements. We got to get
You got
into
to.
the spreading the word for the show.
Yeah, now we got to get strangers.
Get
We have
your
a lot
friends,
of supporters,
Get
but
your family. It's mostly family and friends. Tell the people you know.
yeah,
I know
tell
a guy that does
somebody.
a fantasy show. They talk sports.
Especially if you're betting. If you bet and you win, you're going to want to tell your friends, and they're going to want to bet and win too. So that's one way we can grow. However, for people that are just doing fantasy purposes, hopefully we're helping you out, getting you some wins. And a lot of people do fantasy leagues where there's money involved.
Yeah.
So maybe some of our advice is helping steer you to the playoffs. I know I was telling a couple people pre NFL season, which we didn't have much content pre NFL season. That'll change next year. Chase Brown was a guy I was pounding the table for people. He's going to be a guy who's going to be RB1 for a team that scores a lot. Obviously, I'm a Bengals fan, but that advice worked. I had a guy come up to me and he's like, hey, I'm 8-3 and Chase Brown, I can start at my running back, even though he's on a bye this week. But he's like, I'm locked and loaded. I'm good to go. Thanks for recommending that. And
Putting the team on his back.
kind of felt a little good just because, like, you know, I do my own research and I don't want to come off as sounding cocky or smug. I just want to come off sounding like, hey,
Yeah,
I
we're
know a
looking at
little.
this for our
I know a little bit.
own benefit, and you know we can expand into this different
Yeah.
realm.
And I want to win. And any fantasy move I'm making, it's because I want to win. I'm super competitive, Brian. I promise if we were tying our shoes at the same time, you know, I'm trying to finish before you. And it's just nothing personal. It's just competitive nature. And I apply that to fantasy. Like I said, I have an alarm that goes off at 3 a.m. when the waivers clear. And I take first crack at the waiver wires if I want somebody. And you got to make sacrifices if you want to win. And
Yeah.
how committed
You
are
gotta
you to
put that
wanting to win?
effort in.
Most
Like anything you
people
do,
don't
right?
do that effort, and it's really hard. Honestly, I take a look at my phone and I can barely even see it. And
Yeah, you're squinting one eye open. It's still kind of blurry.
in the last couple weeks, I haven't needed to do anything, so I just looked real quick
the
and I went back
waivers
to
have
bed.
been dry.
It's been pretty
in
thin,
about the last month.
and I've
you
been
know-
locked and loaded because I've done the research. So
It's usually the first 6-7 weeks where things are really going off in the waivers. That's when you really want to tune in and get the recommendations. We've had some fire recommendations. I think Mooney's been the biggest hit of the year off waivers that we've recommended.
yeah, Mooney, that was a good one to pick up. Obviously, you can stream quarterbacks.
Yeah, we've had some good streaming options. I think when we've recommended people, they've had a good week or two.
Yeah, Baker was a good one we recommended. Or early in the season, speaking of week one, me and Ella, Rashid Shaheed before the injury.
dude. Yeah.
He went on a nice little 5-week run
Yeah.
there, and that was cool.
Been good.
Yeah, we know what we're talking about a little bit, but like I said, don't want to come off as I'm better than anybody, because I'm not better than anybody. I just I do this and I'm sharing it with you. If you don't do that, I'm not trying to make you feel any less than me. It is what it is. Because I love fantasy football, and the game's growing. Obviously,
Yeah.
with the First and Goal League, we have new people. So every year, I see leagues where people are trying it out for the first time or getting back into it, and it's exciting.
It's got to be the most popular fantasy format of the big sports here.
It
in the
is.
United States. So
Any of the other sports, when you're doing the fantasy, it's more difficult because it's more of a a daily grind.
Yeah, those. I mean, we did the basketball and the hockey league, and it was like, yeah, dude, I'm just rolling the dice. I'm looking at a few statistics, using a few column sorting methods to draft my team. I think we're 1-2 in the hockey league.
Yeah. Oh, I'm rolling right along, and I apply the same metrics for those leagues too. We do fantasy football and we do fantasy basketball and hockey now. I just look at who's the top of the scoring leaders. I auto draft in both of those. So
hey, I drafted manually in both. So
okay, that's great.
2 different methods paying off.
Yeah, I personally wanted to just auto draft and then go from there. And then now what you do is ride the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the best scores.
Yeah,
I have
look
no
at trends.
loyalty.
Yeah, you
And
look at trends and scoring potential, and that's it. The
And
thing
if-
that's really killing me in the basketball league is like I have like solid roster percentage teams, but like there's 3-4 guys that are like day to day or out.
Yeah.
It's like the NBA is just a different landscape. You got too many guys that will be resting. Or who
Yeah,
knows
I have
what's going on.
Holmgren and Embiid, who are Holmgren's out for 2 months,
You have, like,
and
Jokic
Embiid
out
is
for
here and
personal
there.
reasons,
And there's no IR spots. What are you going to do?
no,
and
it's like you almost got to drop people if they're out. if you
and that's
wanna-
how you win in those leagues.
Yeah.
So I'll weather the storm there in that league for a little bit, but eventually I have no loyalty. I'll drop Embiid in a heartbeat. But yeah, in those kind of leagues, you just want points, volume, points, volume. You don't. The formula is simple in those. You just, what do I got to do? And I'm not loyal to anybody in those kind of leagues.
Well, we got fantasy content in the pipeline.
Yeah, so we'll move along and take that a little more serious when it's time. It's just hard
Yeah.
to focus a lot of
Yeah.
attention when football is going so well, like it's pretty much locked in on the fantasy football. And then even besides that, obviously we're wearing college jerseys. Saturdays, it's hard to
Yeah.
focus on anything else because I'm watching college all
Yeah,
day.
football
so.
season definitely king here.
As college is winding down to the end, we'll tread lightly again because we have a big matchup this week. But the last regular season week is upon us, and then it'll be championship week after that, and then they'll be starting college playoffs for the first year with 12 teams. And I'm not
Yeah, that's
exactly
crazy.
sure when those start, but
I don't know. It's been a tough year to be a Wolverine. You can't be too sad. Coming off the national championship, we got something done, but hopefully we can rebuild. We got some good prospects. Got our quarterback of the future.
yeah, you flipped to
out
the number
Belleville.
one commit, Mr. Bryce Underwood.
This NIL landscape is just
It's
cha-
changed
it's
things.
chaotic. I don't know. I don't know what to think of it.
You can buy whoever you want.
Yeah, you can be a 7-year-old kid with $10 million
Yep.
on the horizon. Who knows?
Yep, and we had the number 2 quarterback of the same draft, so that just goes to show our 2 schools, teams, whatever you want to call them, how committed we are to being/staying good.
Yeah.
And the landscape now is if you buy your players, well, guess what?
You're going to win.
Our schools, we're rich. We can buy whoever we want. So, and if that's the way it is now, then congratulations. I'm glad I'm a fan of a team that has money that can do this because the lesser teams can't do that. So,
No, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it might kill some of that old glow of college football. They're here to play. It's not about the money. And now it's kind of,
it does
mixture
change
between-
things a
yeah.
little, but it is what it is, and you got to roll with it. And then, like I said, and then with 12 teams in the playoffs, it does open up the possibility of more teams having a chance. I guess you want a chance. Usually in
exposure.
usually in college football, the top 4 teams, they're usually the best teams
No,
that
I'm
year.
excited for some playoff.
But we'll see what people who are ranked 11th or 12th can do this year, which is going to be exciting. And then how this shakes out with how they rank these teams and everything.
Huge
Touching
week
on
for
college, so.
the NFL. We got Thanksgiving games.
Oh, I'm so excited! I
That's
love
deeply
Thanksgiving
rooted in
football.
Detroit. And obviously, post Thanksgiving, you got the game. You got all these end of the season matchups.
There's a Black Friday game this year too in the NFL.
Hey,
a
I
Black
don't-
Friday.
I don't know
game.
about Netflix after the whole Tyson debacle.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not sure. Not sure if I'll pay to watch that one. Like I said,
No.
we've dropped Netflix. We're in and out. I'll use the streaming sites for anything they're offering.
Well, we're rolling up on an hour and 20 minutes of streaming.
So we rolled right along this
Yeah.
show.
Time to wrap it up. We might throw the logo up on the screen here. Any closing statements?
So, like I said, week 12 for my fantasy listeners, just weather the storm. Start some people. Take a chance. We've said that a few weeks. Take a chance. Ride the waves. Just realize if you're dealing with a bye week, your opponent or people you're jockeying for playoff position with, they're dealing with the bye week scenario too. So
Weather
just
the
get
storm,
through it.
Take a chance. Ride the wave.
Try to have some fun with
Have
it
some
because
fun.
you don't want to get down. You don't want this to not be fun. So
Let's all loosen up. Just enjoy the ride.
Have some fun.
Yeah.
And then for NFL jockeying position, the Bengals are off, so I don't have to worry about them possibly breaking my heart. Hopefully they're relaxing and getting their stuff together. We're not mathematically eliminated, so hopefully we can still make
a chance.
We have an 11% chance at the playoffs that I've seen. I'll take those odds.
Lions season ticket holders, you're getting your playoff ticket packages already, so it's looking good. Not used to this kind of stuff. 2 years in a row.
Speaking of the Thanksgiving game, going into that game, for most of the years of my life, that wasn't a game Lions fans would look forward to, and now,
oh man, even now, like we lost last year, so we got to look at the moon phase to know if we're gonna win or not. If you've been in that lore or not, look it up. Moon phase and Detroit Lions Thanksgiving football. There's a correlation.
I do know about that, and I haven't looked into that for this one. Just, however, without whatever the moon thing is, because I'm gonna go ahead and defer any picks to whatever that moon phase stat is.
Me too.
But my first thought is the Lions get a win on Thanksgiving. They're rolling right along,
What's
and I
the
think
word? I'm not stitious. I'm not superstitious.
Yeah, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
I'm a little stitious.
Shout out to my office fans. All right.
I think that's a good point then today.
But
good show. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week. Tell your friends.
Please tell your friends.
Spread
that
the word.
Fantasy show. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye, America.
Goodbye, America.